She saw an old man carrying a heavy load of firewood and decided to help him. She thought it was just a kind gesture, but what he gave her in return would change her life forever. At first, it seemed like a blessing, but then someone close to her found out, and everything began to fall apart. Strange things started happening. The gift vanished. Accidents followed. Someone even began to lose their mind. But what really caused it all? Who was this old man, and what secret did the firewood carry? Sit tight as we step into this shocking and powerful story. It was one of those dry, hot afternoons in the outskirts of Enugu. The sun had no mercy, and the air was thick with dust and sweat. A young woman named Mary was walking home from a small interview at a tailoring shop. Her sandals were covered with red dust, and the sun had painted her forehead with sweat. She was tired, disappointed. The woman at the shop said she would think about it and call her later. Mary knew what that meant. No job. She sighed as she crossed the narrow, bumpy road that led toward her street. Just ahead, under the shade of a crooked tree, she saw an old man struggling with a large bundle of firewood. His back was bent. His shirt torn and wet with sweat. His hands shook each time he tried to lift the firewood onto his head. Mary slowed down. Should I help him? She asked herself. She looked at the time. She was in a hurry to cook for her younger brother before he returned from school. But the old man looked like he could collapse any second. He noticed her and tried to lift the firewood again. This time, one of the sticks fell, and he leaned against the tree, breathing hard. Mary couldn't look away anymore. "Papa, let me help you," she said, walking toward him. The old man turned slowly. His eyes were dull but kind. "You want to help me?" he asked, surprised. "Yes," she said, already reaching for the bundle. "Where are you taking it?" "Just down the road, behind that big compound." He pointed with a thin, shaking finger. Mary tied the firewood with the faded rope, bent down, and lifted it onto her own head. It was heavy, but she managed. The old man smiled. "God bless you, my daughter," he said. They walked slowly together, down a narrow path behind the compound. As they moved, the air started to feel different, cooler, quieter. Mary noticed the birds stopped chirping. Even the sun hid behind clouds for a moment. She didn't understand why, but something felt strange. Soon, they reached a small mud house hidden behind a cluster of trees. The house was quiet. No sound, no movement. But it was clean, and the flowers by the wall were freshly watered. "You can drop the firewood there," the old man said, pointing beside a clay stove. Mary placed the bundle down and wiped her forehead. "Thank you," he said again. "Let me get you water." Mary nodded and sat on a short wooden bench. Her neck ached, and she was about to check her phone when the old man returned. Not with water, but with a small black calabash covered in red cloth. She looked at it, confused. "What's that, Papa?" she asked, sitting up straight. The old man sat beside her. His voice was low and calm. "This is not just firewood," he said. "You have carried more than you think. This calabash, it is yours now, but listen carefully. Keep it in a safe place. Don't open it for 7 days. After that, you will know what to do." Mary was stunned. "I don't understand." "You don't need to," he said. "Not yet." He placed the calabash in her hands. It felt warm, almost alive. Before she could say anything else, the old man stood up and walked back into the house. He didn't say goodbye. Mary looked at the calabash again, her heart beating fast. Then she tucked it carefully into her bag and left the compound. As she walked home, her eyes kept checking the bag. Her hands touched the top to be sure it was still there. She didn't know why, but her chest felt both light and heavy at the same time. She had no idea that from that moment, everything in her life was about to change. The road home felt longer than usual. Mary kept her bag clutched tightly to her chest as she walked through the dusty path leading to her family's one-room apartment. Every now and then, she would glance over her shoulder, half expecting someone to appear and snatch the calabash from her bag. She didn't even know why she was scared. Maybe it was the way the old man had spoken, or the strange way the birds had gone quiet. Or maybe it was how the calabash felt in her hands warm, like a heart that was still beating. When she reached her compound, her younger brother Peter was already outside, sitting on a wooden stool, removing his sandals. He was just 11 years old, always full of questions, and today was no different. "Auntie Mary, you didn't buy bread?" Mary gave a weak smile. "No money today. I'll make pap." Peter nodded, but his eyes were already on her bag. "What's inside?" he asked. "Nothing," Mary said quickly. "Just something someone gave me." She didn't want him touching it. She didn't even want him near it. She stepped inside their room and placed the bag on top of their old metal cupboard. Then she locked the door. That night, she barely slept. She kept dreaming of firewood turning into snakes, of the calabash opening on its own, of the old man standing at her window whispering words she didn't understand. The next morning, she woke up sweating. She sat up and looked around. Peter was still asleep. She turned to look at the cupboard. The bag was still there. She stood and touched it. Still warm, still beating. She pulled her hand back. By afternoon, she decided to tell someone. Not everything, just a little. That someone was John, her childhood friend who lived 2 houses away. John was a barber, always cheerful, always laughing, but also curious, maybe too curious. They sat under the mango tree beside his shop. "You mean you helped an old man carry firewood and he gave you something?" John asked. Mary nodded slowly. "A calabash." "A what?" he said, raising his brow. She looked around to make sure no one was listening. "A calabash. But he said I shouldn't open it for 7 days." John leaned back in his chair. "That one is spiritual. You should have left it there." "I couldn't. He gave it to me, John. And I don't know. Something told me to take it." He looked at her carefully. "Where's the calabash now?" "At home, locked inside my bag." John stood up. "Let me see it." "Number?" "Just small look." "John, please," Mary said, her voice shaking. "Don't play with this thing." John laughed. "So it's like that? What if it's money? Or charm? Or something that can help both of us?" Mary didn't answer. That evening, when she got home, she noticed something strange. The bag had been moved. She blinked. She knew exactly how she had placed it, but now it was tilted. "Peter!" she shouted. Her brother rushed in. "Did you touch my bag?" "No," he said, eyes wide. "I haven't even climbed up there." Mary took the bag down quickly. She opened it and looked inside. The calabash was still there, covered in the red cloth. She touched it. Still warm, but something felt different. That night, she couldn't sleep again. She woke up at midnight and sat on her bed, staring at the bag. A voice in her head whispered, "Open it. Just open it and see." But she shook her head and whispered back, "Number he said, 7 days." She picked up her phone and looked at the date. Day 2. Only 5 more to go. Then, suddenly, she heard a noise outside the window, like something falling or running. She stood up slowly. From the crack in the curtain, she saw a shadow moving across the compound. Fast. She didn't know why, but her heart began to race. Who was out there? Why was the bag moved? And why did the calabash feel different? She sat back on her bed and held the bag close. Something had changed, but she didn't know what. Not yet. The next morning, Mary woke up feeling like she had slept inside a dream. Her eyes were heavy, her body weak. The first thing she did was reach for the bag on the cupboard. Still there. She opened it slowly. The calabash was cold. Cold? Her hands shook as she touched the red cloth. The warmth from the past 2 days was gone. She removed the cloth halfway, then stopped. Number. She remembered the old man's words clearly. Do not open it until the 7th day. Mary quickly wrapped it again and put it back. But her heart would not rest. She left the room and went straight to John's shop. He was already outside, sweeping the sandy ground in front of his small wooden kiosk. Mary, he said with a grin, you're up early today. Mary didn't smile back. John, she said, did you come to my house yesterday? He paused, leaning on his broom. Why? Because I think someone touched my bag. John frowned, then smiled. So now I'm a thief? I didn't say that, Mary replied. I'm just asking. John walked closer. Okay, fine. I came to borrow that big bucket we used last week. I knocked. Nobody answered. I pushed the door. It wasn't locked. I entered, but I didn't touch your bag. Mary looked at him closely. Swear? John raised one hand. I swear. But something in his voice didn't sit well with her. As she turned to leave, John said quietly, Mary, you know I'm your friend. If anything's wrong, just tell me. Maybe I can help. Mary walked away without replying. That evening, as she washed clothes in a bowl outside the room, her neighbor, Mrs. Ifeoma, came out and sat nearby. She was an older woman, quiet, always watching. Mary, she said, sipping from a cup. How's life? We thank God, Mary said, wringing a blouse. I saw that your friend yesterday, Ifeoma added. Which one? The barber boy. John. Mary paused. What about him? He was outside your window around midnight. I thought he was trying to call you, but he was just standing there. Mary froze. You're sure? I may be old, but my eyes are still working, the woman said, sipping again. Mary didn't reply. That night, she sat beside the bag again. Her hands rested on it. The calabash was still cold, too cold now, like something was missing. She didn't sleep. At exactly 3 a.m., she heard a loud knock on the door. Bam, bam, bam. She jumped up, heart racing. Who's there? No answer. Peter was already awake, his eyes wide. The knock came again. Bam, bam, bam. Mary picked up a broom and tiptoed to the door. She didn't open it, but she peeped through the curtain beside the window. No one was there. She opened the door slowly. The compound was silent, empty. But just at the foot of the stairs, something shiny was lying on the ground. She stepped out and picked it up. It was a small gold ring. Her fingers shook. She knew this ring. She had seen it many times, on John's hand. She rushed back inside, locked the door, and held the ring in her palm. Why was it outside her door? She turned to the cupboard and opened the bag again. She slowly pulled the red cloth off the calabash. It was empty. Gone. Her heart dropped. She couldn't breathe. The gift was gone. And now, something had been taken. Or worse, stolen. She dropped to the floor, covered her mouth, and began to cry. She remembered the old man's warning. Do not open it. But she didn't open it. Someone else did. And now, whatever was meant for her was no longer hers. But the question remained, where did it go? And what would happen to the one who took it? The next morning felt like thunder was hiding in the clouds. Mary sat in silence, staring at the empty calabash. It was still in her hands, cold, hollow, useless. She didn't touch her food. She didn't say a word. She didn't even reply when Peter asked if he should go buy kerosene. All she could think about was John. The ring, the bag, the shadow outside her window. And now, the missing gift. By afternoon, she couldn't hold it in anymore. She went straight to his shop, but it was closed. Where is he? She asked herself. Mary! Someone called behind her. It was Tochi, the pepper seller. That your friend? He left here since morning. No greeting, nothing. Just carried bag and ran like somebody chasing him. Mary's chest tightened. She turned and began to walk. Fast. She didn't know where she was going exactly, but something told her to go back to the old man's house, the place where it all began. She followed the narrow, dusty path behind the large compound. The trees still stood tall. The birds were chirping again. Everything looked normal. But when she reached the house, her heart stopped. The door was open, but the room inside was empty. No pot, no chair, no man. Gone. She stepped inside. Her voice shook. Papa, are you there? Silence. She walked slowly to the back of the house. Still nothing. Then she turned to leave and stopped. There, written on the dusty ground with charcoal, were 5 words. He has touched what burns. Mary's mouth opened. Her heart pounded like a drum. She didn't understand what it meant completely, but one thing was clear: John had stolen what wasn't his. And he was going to pay. She rushed back to her street. People were outside, standing, whispering. She saw 2 boys pointing toward the road. One of them said, he was shouting about firewood and crying like a child. Another woman added, he was tearing his clothes, rolling on the ground like a madman. Mary pushed through the small crowd. Her slippers slapped hard against the ground. Then she saw him. John. He was by the gutter, sitting with both feet inside the water, fully dressed but soaked. His eyes were wild. His hands covered in mud. He was talking to himself. I said I'm sorry, he shouted. I only wanted to look inside. People watched, shaking their heads. Mary moved closer. John, she called gently. He looked up slowly. Then his eyes grew wide. Mary, he whispered, the firewood is following me. What? She asked, her voice small. I opened it, he said, tears mixing with the dirt on his face. I only wanted to see. It was shining. There was light inside. I touched it. And then, his voice cracked. I saw things. I heard drums. A shadow came out of the pot. It looked like fire, but it had eyes. Mary knelt beside him, tears rolling down her cheeks. Why did you do it? She asked softly. John grabbed her hands. Please take it back, he cried. Tell the old man I didn't mean to. I went back, she said. "He's gone." "No!" John shouted, shaking his head. "He can't go. He has to come back. I'm burning inside. Mary, please. My head is not my own." He began to roll on the ground again. "Water! Somebody give me water!" he screamed. 2 men came forward and tried to hold him, but he was fighting hard, screaming, crying, begging. Mary covered her mouth, watching the boy she had known since childhood fall apart before her eyes. She looked down at the ring in her pocket. He had taken what wasn't his. Now he was losing what was his. His mind, his peace, his freedom, and the worst part, he might not survive it. The villagers started murmuring, "Is it Jazz? Did he steal from a shrine? I heard it was firewood he carried." But Mary knew the truth. And deep inside, a question began to grow in her mind like a storm. If the old man is gone, who can save him now? The sun was high when Mary returned to the bush path, leading 2 young men from the neighborhood. One of them held John by the shoulder, the other supported his waist. John's shirt was dirty, his mouth dry, and his eyes looked empty. He wasn't shouting anymore, just whispering softly to himself. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. Please forgive me." Mary walked ahead, the heat burning her neck, but she didn't stop. The same narrow path, the same crooked mango tree, the same bend in the bush. They arrived at the place where the old man's house had stood, but it was gone. No hut, no bench, not even a mark on the ground. "Wait," one of the boys said. "You said his house was here?" Mary's eyes were wide. She looked around, confused. "It was here. I sat over there. I dropped the firewood right here by the stove." But now there was nothing. The soil looked untouched, as if no one had ever lived there. John dropped to his knees and began to cry. "He's gone. I'm finished." "No," Mary said, stepping forward. "He's not just anybody. He'll come." One of the boys scoffed. "You mean a spirit?" Mary turned slowly. "I don't know what he is, but I know he's real." Then something strange happened. The trees nearby stopped moving. The sound of the wind disappeared. Even the chirping birds grew quiet, as if they were waiting for something. Then a familiar voice came. "You brought him back." They all turned. There, standing beneath the mango tree, was the old man. He looked the same, his back still slightly bent, his eyes calm but strong. He walked slowly toward them, leaning on his stick. John saw him and began to shake. "Please forgive me. I didn't mean to open it. I didn't know what I was doing." The old man looked at him without a word. "I thought it was just treasure," John said. "I didn't know it would follow me. It started talking, whispering. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I thought I was dying." The old man stepped closer and gently placed a hand on John's head. John gasped and fell forward, hands on the ground. He shook like someone caught in the rain, then suddenly became still. The boys stepped back, eyes wide. Mary dropped to her knees beside John. "Is he okay?" The old man raised his hand slowly. "He is free now." John coughed. Then he sat up slowly and looked around. He looked at Mary. "Where are we?" he asked in a soft voice. She burst into tears. "You're okay. You're really okay." John's eyes filled with confusion. "I was, somewhere dark, but I don't remember everything." Mary hugged him. The old man turned to go. "Papa," Mary called after him. "Wait, please. Why did all this happen?" The old man looked over his shoulder. The calabash reflects the heart. If you carry it cleanly, it blesses you. If you carry it with greed, it will break you. Mary looked at John, then back at him. What was in it? He smiled faintly. Only what your spirit deserved. And now? She asked. Now, my work here is done, he said, already turning to leave. Mary called one last time. Who are you? The old man didn't turn back. His voice drifted through the still air. I am the reward for kindness, and the teacher of thieves. Then he was gone. Not in a puff of smoke, not with drama, just gone. No sound, no goodbye, only peace. Mary stood there for a long time, holding John's hand. The boys remained quiet. No one said anything as they walked back home under the hot afternoon sun. But deep in her heart, Mary knew her life would never be the same. She had helped a poor old man carry firewood, but what she really carried was a test. And in the end, what saved her was not strength or money. It was kindness. What did you learn from this story? Which part touched you the most? Was it John's breakdown, the old man's return, or Mary's quiet strength? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. I'm reading every single one. There's another powerful story dropping in a few days, and you really don't want to miss it. So, please subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell so you'll be the first to know when it drops. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching. Stay kind, stay wise, and remain blessed.